What's up, guys? Dragonfly Mike. Today I'm going to be talking about kind of how the Eltheria works. Before I get into the meat and potato of the video, I do want to say that this theory, in my experience, is based on me not using the IRA filter. Now, we know how stick hookahs work, right? You have the bowl up here, it pulls smoke down, and the smoke sits on top of the water. Now that concept still applies to the Eltheria. You have the actual smoke chamber that the smoke is being cooled by the water, and then you have the downstem. But you also have a second chamber in here for water or ice that acts as another way to chill the smoke. What I like to say about the Eltheria is it's a reverse dual chamber hookah. And the reason for that is because when you put the hookah together, right, you have the actual chamber where smoke is being pulled into. It gets put into here. And then it does have a splash guard, and this splash guard prevents water from falling down, but it also helps create just a better seal between that second chamber, which is this, and everything else. Now, I'm not going to push it down, and I'm actually going to take out the splash guard because I want you guys to be able to see into the Eltheria. And a stick hookah exists within the Eltheria. From there, though, a second chamber of smoke is created where it comes up in the top and it comes and fills in here. Now, why this is so different than a stick hookah is that you have another area for that smoke to be cooled. And what's important about that is kind of how thermodynamics ends up working. I don't understand these at like a university level, but I do know the simple aspects of it where heat likes to rise and cold likes to settle. Now, when you have a stick hookah, the coolest part of this hookah is down below here. And it takes a lot of energy for cool to come up than it does to settle. And as a result, when you're smoking a stick hookah, you're actually pulling from a warmer area than you are with the Eltheria. Not only that, but the smoke is not sitting on top of the water in the second chamber. It's actually sitting around a cooling area. When you put all of that together, I personally feel that it creates an experience where you get more flavor. And I understand why that is such a controversial thing to state. Because I have two hookahs here. And while restriction can affect flavor, for the most part, the only difference between these two hookahs is the way that they look. They function exactly the same. There's no different in that regard. This, not so much. Because the smoke is sitting around a chilled core center, I think it creates an environment that is more conducive to flavor. But one of the most important aspects of these differences is that it is really hard to conceptualize or perceive flavor that you are not experiencing in the moment. I did not notice the difference in flavor until I took this hookah and the matte pear, set them up at the same time, and used the same bowl to switch between the two. Once I actually, in real time, experienced the difference between this hookah and this hookah, that's when I truly noticed the difference. This, because the environment in which the smoke sits and that dual chamber system, it creates a smoke that is more flavorful than this one. That experience, that in the moment experience, kind of reminds me of a psychological event that some people experience. This event is called ontological shock. Now, this was first observed with actually an astronaut that went to space, saw the giant planet that we live on, and then they returned to Earth. And they experienced something that kind of changed their reality. And that was labeled as ontological shock. Now in hookah, it's not something so immense and so profound. Yet, when I set that experience up, my reality was kind of changed. These two hookahs do smoke slightly different, but I've gotten to the stage where you can just about give me any stick hookah and I can get it to smoke with good flavor and good clouds. And for a lot of us, that's true. And so until you actually experience them side by side, it just doesn't seem like a hookah could end up changing the flavor. Because up until a certain point, we haven't had something that exists like this does. As I said, I like to call this a dual reverse chambered hookah. You actually have 4 chambers in here. You have 2 water chambers or an ice chamber, and then you have 2 smoke chambers. That is really different than a single chamber. To close out the video, I do want to deconstruct this and put this together again. I'm going to do it without the splash guard so you guys can actually see this one last time. So you can see that these two systems are very different. So you have the downstem here, right? Then you have a water chamber, and this is where smoke is going to end up filling up when you draw on the hookah. Then you have another chamber here, and you can fill it with ice or water or whatever you want. And you put them together. And when you put this on top, that's what creates that second chamber of smoke. So when people are looking at these two hookahs, they see something that looks really foreign. But the core foundation of this hookah is exactly the same as here. It's everything that happens afterwards that is very different. But I think that's all I got, and thanks for watching, guys. Peace out.